We're hell-bent in the direction of destroying our planet. And frankly, we appear to be doing very little about it. Decades ago, visitors from other planets warned us about where we were headed and offered to help. But instead, we, or at least some of us, interpreted their visits as a threat and decided to shoot first and ask questions after. They, the military, must have been and still are so paranoid that they feel it necessary to use the visitors' technology to fight them off, rather than welcome them as partners in development, though they may have seconded a few renegades to assist them in what can best be viewed as diabolical developments. Stephen has said that talking about UFOs is passé, and that we should be talking or limiting our talk to exopolitics. Well, Stephen, I agree with you in theory, but in reality we have a problem when official U.S. policy insists that UFOs don't exist. The veil of secrecy must be lifted, and it has to be lifted now, before it's too late. It is ironic that the U.S. should be fighting monstrously expensive wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, allegedly to bring democracy to those two countries, when it itself can no longer legitimately claim to be called a democracy, when trillions, and I mean thousands of billions of dollars, have been spent on projects about which both the Congress and the Commander-in-Chief have been kept deliberately in the dark. How much has been accomplished in 60 years of feverish activity by some of the most educated minds in the United States? Has America developed flying saucers that are visually indistinguishable from the visitors, as alleged? And if so, what do they propose to do with them? Even more critical, what progress has been made in the development of clean energy sources that could conceivably replace fossil fuels and save the planet from becoming a veritable wasteland? Well, who has the answers? Someone does, but apparently they aren't telling either secretaries of defense or presidents, because they don't have, quote, a need to know. In a story told by Dr. Stephen Greer, President Clinton was asked a question by White House reporter Sarah McClendon about why he didn't do something about disclosure. And Clinton replied, "Sarah, there's a government inside the government, and I don't control it." Excuse me, doesn't the Commander-in-Chief and the person who allegedly has their finger on the nuclear trigger have a right to know what his subordinates are doing? The people of the United States who have paid the bills have the right to know. The people of the world demand to know, because it is our descendants too whose lives are in mortal danger. It is time for the people of the United States to launch a new war against the evil of lies, deceit, and darkness, and go all out to win the victory of truth and transparency and light. Thank you.
My question is to Clifford Stone. You said that you had seen aliens on a craft that had crashed. I wondered if you could describe what they looked like.
I could, but it would probably take a whole lot of time. The reason I state that, when I got out in 1989, we had cataloged 57 different species. You have individuals that look very much like you and myself that could walk among us and you wouldn't even notice the difference, except for some of the things that They might be able to go ahead, even in a dark room, and touch an object and go ahead and identify what color that object might be. They would have a heightened sense of smell, sight, hearing. The situation is that you have various types of what we normally call grays. We didn't call them grays in the military, but you had at least 3 types of the grays. You had some that were much taller than we were. The unique thing that I'd like to point out for the most part is that the entities that we did catalog were in fact humanoid. Now this created a situation where the scientific community was trying to figure out why that would be the case, because you would expect that if life evolved on other planets, that they would take on some type of other being, so to speak, not necessarily look humanoid or be bipedal such as we are. But apparently we got quite a few of the species out there that are humanoid in appearance, and that creates a question that yet has to be answered by science.
Yes, and as I call on you, please state the news agency that you were with. Yes, ma'am.
Deanne Divis with United Press International. Could you please address the vehicle that there was a drawing displayed of? Why would this vehicle be on display at an air show? What is the power source that you are asserting is going to be so very useful? And how can you determine that this vehicle is not something that is being developed, by a government agency?
In fact, I think that was the testimony. This is an alien reproduction vehicle, and just to be clear, this means that it is based on advanced anti-gravity and zero-point energy propulsion systems. Those are the propulsion systems. They are being manufactured by a consortium of companies that include Lockheed Martin, Northrop, SAIC, and other corporations. They do have superluminal capacity, in other words, faster than the speed of light capacity. I think Mr. McCandlish and other witnesses that he's identified could go into more of the technical physics of it. I'm just a country doctor from Virginia, I tell people. I mean, really. And but this is actually what is the reason it's called alien reproduction vehicle, is that it's based on the study of extraterrestrial vehicles, but it is manufactured by human military intelligence, aerospace contracting arrangements. And this is very important. It means that we, Homo sapiens, have the ability to access this so-called zero-point field of energy, which is the ambient field of energy from which all matter and energy is fluxing, and can access that energy and generate all the power we need to run this planet without fossil fuels or pollution.
Good afternoon. As we speak, the Mars Global Surveyor spacecraft, the MGS, is in orbit around Mars, and it took all of the images that we will be showing this afternoon. The links to those images are available on websites, official websites, of NASA, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and Mail and Space Science Systems, the contractor that does the imaging on the spacecraft. Any of you can go to the original sites and confirm any of these images. No special processing was done to the images. We simply are showing the extract of interest here in each case, unless I remark otherwise. And in all cases, I'll be showing the original image. So for the first of these, I should stress that all of the images we're going to look at are in the general category of if we saw them on Earth, we would conclude that they were the activity of either humans or large-scale biology on Earth. Now, there are arguments why these are not normal products of nature, and certainly nothing like them exists on any of the other moons or planets of the solar system that we have imaged to date. The next picture is in a different category of glassy tubes. The glassy tubes are seen in dozens of places. Since we've sampled only 1/1000th of the surface of Mars so far at high resolution, they must be all over the place. They are networked. We've established that it is not an optical illusion. They are really tube-shaped. They're not easily explained as dunes or lava tubes. They seem to be translucent. In fact, in this case, that bright spot seems to be a specular reflection of the sun, implying that the surface must be glassy or metallic. Natural surfaces don't ordinarily give you specular reflections. This is an object, one of several in this area, which if we saw it on Earth, we would say, well, that's a tree seen from above. But Mars is supposed to be a lifeless planet. Yet we see the radial structure around a central trunk. We can see several levels of branching. We can see shadows cast on the ground. These are clearly not on the ground geologically. They are above it, casting shadows downward. This is one of the images that led Arthur Clarke to say he's 95% certain that Mars has large life on it. This is what he means by that. And this is one of many examples of what we would ordinarily interpret as vegetation on the planet. Here's the category of infrastructure, and I showed this one out of several because triangle shapes require a special explanation, and here there's so many of them so similar. And even if those are shadows, you still have an unusual number of monoliths, large monoliths, all of the same size. When we go back to the actual image was taken at a rather oblique angle under extremely unfavorable lighting conditions. And this is what the object actually looks like, as best we can tell at this point. So both the other scientific arguments and the new view of the face certainly have our attention with regard to perspective artificiality of this object, but there is more. In this image, to the amazement of everyone, including the scientists involved who made these predictions, we can see two nostrils at the end of the nose. We can see an iris inside the eye socket. We can see an eyebrow feature over the eye socket. We can see that the mouth does consist of parted lips. All of those predictions that were made in advance to distinguish artificial from natural were fulfilled in favor of an artificial or built object in this image. Moreover, they are fulfilled in a most interesting way because there is no background of similar features from which we can pick and choose the ones that fit our preconception of a face. Combined odds of this feature arising as a product of nature or the chance origin hypothesis are 1,000 billion to 1. The artificiality of Cydonia is therefore established beyond a reasonable doubt, the Cydonia face. This is now the second face image, not the Cydonia one. This is at another location on Mars near the famous dark marking Syrtis Major. It's located about a quarter away around the planet from Cydonia. The coloration is always artist's addition to the original image shown here. Don't let that detract from the original image shown on the left. We don't know too much directly until we explore and get some ground truth here about the origin or the demise of the hypothetical civilization here. But we do know, and this is standard science that is accepted by all the planetary geologists, that Mars at some point suffered a horrendous cataclysm.
Or will there be a continued effort even though?
Well, there are 67,000 images already in the queue and tens of thousands more coming down the pike. We want to see what's there, don't you?